what if the Cowboys have a top 10 defense? If the Cowboys have a top 10 defense, does that mean that they are Super Bowl contenders? I believe so. Do I think that makes them Super Bowl favorites? I don't necessarily think so. And the reason why is I think that the Rams have top 3 offense in the league. If you want to say the best, you'd say the best. If you want to say the Cowboys have the best, I don't think that that's crazy to say either. But the difference is I do think the Rams have a much more proven defense on that side of the ball. I think the Cowboys have the potential to be a good defense this year, but do I see them being as good as the Rams with Myles Garrett and the guys that they have on that team, that defensive line, those cornerbacks that they have, the safeties that they have? I don't necessarily know if I see that being the case. And, if the Cowboys offense is better than the Rams this year, how much better is it going to be than theirs? Is the difference going to make up for, I think, the difference that the Rams defense and the Cowboys defense has? But the thing is, right, you can't go into a year saying you just got to give up because this team's really, really good. You have no idea what's going to happen throughout the course of the season. Now, obviously, you don't root for injuries, but they happen. And if injuries happen, you're not just going to sit around and be like, oh, we feel sorry for this team, so we're not going to compete because, we feel sorry. No, absolutely not. You're going to take advantage of it, as you should. Every other team in the league is going to take advantage of it, as they should. Again, I'm not predicting anything, but these things happen. That's why when you go into seasons, people are like, well, we got to see if this team's going to be healthy. It's for a reason. So, the Cowboys are going to have to hope things bounce their way. They're going to have to hope that they show up on any given Sunday and can beat a team like the Rams if they do stay healthy. That's where you are as a football team. And that's not necessarily a bad place per se. It's a good place. I think that the Cowboys have the potential to be a top 3 team in the NFC this year. No doubt about it. The only team I see as definitively better than them right now from a talent perspective are the Los Angeles Rams, and I guess you could say the Seahawks as well. I would give the Seahawks the nod there, obviously, because they won the Super Bowl. But I do think the Cowboys have a very talented roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But I do think they've made a ton of moves on the defensive side of the ball. You're going into year 2 with Quinnen Williams. You're going into year 2 of Kenny Clark. You added Rashawn Gary. You added Jalen Thompson. You added Caleb Dowd. You added D. Winters. You added Kobe Durant. This defense looks way different than what it did last year. And not only that, you added a better defensive coordinator than what you had most likely, right? I don't see how it's going to be worse with Christian Parker than it was with Matt Eberflus. So all of those things being taken into consideration, yes, it's absolutely fair to say that this is one of the most talented teams in the entire NFL. And if the coaching matches the talent like we haven't seen in previous years, well then, man, they have a chance to be playing on Championship Sunday. They have a chance to be playing to win the NFC. How great of a chance is it with the Los Angeles Rams being in town and with them being as talented as they are? I don't know, right? That is a tall mountain to climb, but I don't think you can just look at it and say that if you say that they're one of the most talented teams in the NFC, that you're going to have an argument for other teams outside of the Rams and the Seahawks, right? I don't think Philly's more talented than this team. Maybe outside of the quarterback, but the Cowboys have the quarterback. They have the better player. So that's where I look at this. If they have a top 10 defense, that means they're going to be in really strong position to contend for a Super Bowl, I think. For a Super Bowl. But again, it has to happen. Here's the thing, right? When people say, oh, well, here you go, hyping up the Cowboys again. I never said they were going to be a top 10 defense. I never said. All I said is, what if? And the thing is, right, the main thing that I'm paying attention to with the Cowboys defense this upcoming year is not where they rank as a defense. It's how they play against the best defenses or the best offenses in the league, I should say. Because we've seen in years past the Cowboys rank very high in all these defensive stats, points per game and all this stuff, right? And then they play better teams that can match them from an athletic standpoint and that dial them up. And it gets really, really, really ugly some of these games, right? The Cowboys were able to overwhelm teams defensively because of how many athletes they had on that side of the ball during the Dan Quinn era. But when they played the better offenses, it got ugly sometimes. So that's what I'm looking at with this iteration of the Cowboys. I'm looking to see, what does your defense look like against some of the best offenses in the league? Now, look, they're some of the best offenses in the league for a reason. You're not just going to shut out every top offense. They get paid as well. But at the same time, are you not getting embarrassed when you play them? Do you give your offense a fighting chance to win a game when you're going up against a high-powered offense? That's the thing I'm looking for, more so than where they rank as a defense. Now, there is a correlation between being able to play well against good offenses and ranking high in defense, and I understand that, right? Like, it goes hand in hand. Well, obviously, if you play good against good offense, you're going to rank highly in defensive rating, right? But the thing is, I go back to the 2021, 2022, 2023 seasons where they ranked highly offensively, or defensively, but it didn't really turn into anything because when they played those better offenses, it got ugly. So that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for more than I think anything. More than anything, that's what I'm looking for this year. I know they'll be able to overwhelm the less talented teams in the league. I know they'll be able to overwhelm the Commanders and, some of these other less talented teams that they're going to play. The Arizona Cardinals, these teams, maybe not the Arizona Cardinals, just because of this team's history against that team. But I think you guys understand what I'm saying there. Like, it's going to be a situation where the defense, I think, is going to be much better. And because I think they have a good base, they have a good skeleton to their defense, I think you're going to see them play better more consistently than they did in the Dan Quinn era. And that's the thing, right? What I like about what the Cowboys did this offseason when it came to fixing their defense is that they understood that they had to build this thing up from the ground. So what do people say about rushing the passer, right? They say you have to stop the run to rush the passer. That doesn't start in September. That starts in March during the personnel acquisition stage of things. And I feel like the Cowboys did a really good job of saying, we are going to stop the run this upcoming year. We're going to have a defensive line that's stout against the run. We're going to have linebackers on the second level that are going to be really athletic because our defensive linemen are going to work for those guys. They brought in a guy like Caleb Downs, Jalen Thompson. These guys are going to help you on the third level, running the alley, being stout against the run, right? Like, you are much better against the run, I think, from a personnel perspective than you have been in years past. And that's because you're building up the base of your defense. You're building up the skeleton. Now, we start looking at this team and we're saying, hey, we need pass rushers on the edge. That's where this defense, I think, is lacking a little bit. But the way I look at it is, this is not just a one-year fix, this defense. And it might transcend Christian Parker. Christian Parker might get a head coaching job next year. He might, now that I start to think of it, hey, Liam Cohen was a play caller for 1 year, and he got a head coaching job. So that's something to take into consideration. But the thing is, even though Christian Parker might get a head coaching job, I don't think that stops where they're trying to go as a defense, being more stout against the run, right? Because I think that's more of, hey, Schottenheimer is looking for this, and that's why Christian Parker got hired, more so than Christian Parker coming in and saying, hey, this is going to be our philosophy. I think Schottenheimer was seeking out a defensive coordinator with that type of philosophy. That is, hey, let's build this thing from the ground up. And you can find pass rushers, right? Like, even if this is more than just a 1 year rebuild of this defense, you can find pass rushers. Dante Fowler was a 10-sack guy in Washington. He was able to get after the quarterback. Not saying that's the guy you bring in, but I'm just saying, you can find guys like that. Robert Quinn was a guy that was able to get a ton of sacks. You can find those type of guys. So that's what I really like about what they did. They're going to be stout against the run. And I think we know that. And you want to know what? Here's the thing. Here's what I will say. The reason why I love that the Cowboys prioritized their run defense this offseason is because, at the very least, teams are not going to be able to hold on to the ball the entire game like they've been able to do recently and keep your offense off the field. Yeah, the pass defense might be something that I'm a little bit suspect of, but if they're taking the top off and they're being able to throw the ball down the field on you, at least you're getting the offense back on the field, right? Like, I'm not saying that's what you want. That's obviously not what you want. But when you look at the defense last season, teams could beat you whichever way they wanted to. If they wanted to keep your offense off the field, they would just run the ball all game and take advantage of the short passing game. And that's how they would keep the offense off the field. I feel like at least with this, you're not allowing teams to take 8-9 minutes off the clock and having your offense on the sideline. So that's what I will say. At least there's that. At least teams aren't going to be able to bully you up front. Because when I look at this defensive line, this is a stout unit, especially against the run. I feel like they're very stout. We'll see what their personnel is going to look like day one and how they use their personnel, who's going to be playing over the center, who's going to be playing at the four eyes, who's going to be starting at outside linebacker. We'll see that day one. I don't think it's something that we can really predict at the current moment, but I do like the direction that they're going to. They have a clear vision. My thing is they're being intentional. They were being intentional this offseason. We are going to have an identity, and our identity is we're not going to allow teams to come in and just say, hey, Dallas, you can run the ball on them. You can run the ball on these guys. Because that's what's been Dallas's defensive identity. You can rush the passer. The Cowboys can rush the passer. So teams are just like, man, they can get after the quarterback. Let's put them in a position where they can't get after the quarterback. I mean, like, smart on them, good on them. But now I think the Cowboys are trying to reverse that. And, like, I'll say this. Malachi Lawrence is an important piece of this all. I mean, he is the wild card here. If Malachi Lawrence can be the pass rusher that you need him to be, that is going to be so big. Because the way I look at this now is you have the personnel to stop the run. If you have a guy that could be just a legit juice, get up the field, get after the quarterback, get pressure on the quarterback quickly, that is going to be massive. Massive. Because right now, I don't see that on this roster outside of potentially Malachi Lawrence. I look at Rashawn Gary as more of a power rusher. Donovan Ezaraku is a guy who likes to break you down and use pass rush moves. He's not like a juice, get up, get off the ball, and fly to the quarterback type of deal. I don't look at him like that. But I look at Malachi Lawrence as a guy who could absolutely potentially be that. And that's where this is going to come into play. And it's like, man, him being what the Cowboys think he can be, that could be so massive. Again, it's still something that we have to wait and see. He is a rookie. This is going to be his first year, and I don't like putting this much expectations on a rookie when it comes to, hey, can you be our guy that gets up the field and gets to the quarterback? I don't think that's fair for a rookie, which is why I'm all for, again, I know it's more external talk than it is internal when it comes to the Josh Sweat stuff, but just a guy like that, if there's a guy like that that you can go out there and trade for, that would be huge. I know people say you don't have the money to do it. It's the NFL. The salary cap does not exist. It doesn't. Like, look at what Philadelphia is doing. The salary cap does not exist for them. They don't look at their team and say, we can't make this move because of salary cap. No, they find a way to make it work. They do. And they've been really successful. It's the same thing with the Rams. I mean, like, look, I know there's going to be somebody that well, this is actually how it works. Okay, that's great. And they made it work the way they did.